Hello, welcome back. I'm talking to this one. Hello, welcome back to the abode of unity. In today's episode, it's my first episode of a podcast, switching it up. And I've got my first guest, starring guest, my sister. Beautiful, lovely sister. And introduce yourself. Your name.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Brittany, and I'm here with my brother. He makes amazing videos. If you have not subscribed to him, definitely do so. And my husband's also here. He's kind of sitting over there, but you can't see him in the camera. He might be able to step in here in a few minutes to say hi. It's Justin.
Hey, what's going on? I actually inspired this podcast today with the amazing conversation Jaden and I had, so I'll take credit for all this.
Actually, yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, that's all I
Hey, you can pull it back to me.
Yeah.
So that's I'm a media specialist. I'm a teacher.
She has her dual masters. Went to Kent, Ohio.
Kent State University.
Kent State.
Whoop, whoop.
And what did you get your master's in?
So I have a master's in education, and I have a master's in library and informational sciences. And my master's in education is focused in integrated language arts, which is English, grades 6 through 12. And my MLIS is focused in school media specialist. And then my bachelor's is in psychology and sociology, with a concentration of human development and family studies.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very detailed.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Oh my gosh, very smart. Just book smart.
Yeah. So this is kind of off the cuff and off the top, and so I kind of rearranged some things. So it's a little messy. It's experimenting, testing, but
super experimenting, super messy. It's 11 o'clock p.m.
Yeah,
I have an 8-month-old that did not sleep last night, so I'm exhausted. And he was like, "Hey, you want to do a podcast?" I was like, "Sure, let's just do it."
Yeah. So we're going off the vibe. It's August 26th. So we're just gonna go with the flow, go off the vibe, see how it goes, see what comes of it. Yeah. All right. So since you have a lot of background in schooling, and my audience is woke, and I want to spread that wokeness and awareness of reality and of life and what life can be and actually is, etc. I want to hear your thoughts, since you have so much background in schooling, on schooling, going to school, how it was going to school, and teaching in the schools.
That's a lot.
It
So
is a lot.
let's start with one part.
You have to break that up in parts.
Let's go backwards, and let's start with you already being in school and affecting the kids. I want to ask what teachers can do in their schooling with regimen, and how they can go outside that regimen to inspire the kids, teach the kids other knowledge that they can use in their life, how they can implement that, and what the kids can do at school. So if there's any high schoolers watching or college students, what they can do in school.
For sure. So as a teacher, I'm not sure how many teachers are going to be watching your podcast.
Yeah. I don't know what.
But so I guess I'll gear this more towards students, but just really briefly, kind of like as a teacher, when you are awakened towards, the reality of possibilities and the spiritual realm,
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely seems
We're spiritual beings living in having a human experience, not a human having a spiritual experience.
Yeah, it definitely seems contradicting and very controversial to work in the school systems, because I've done a lot of research into it. I've kind of lived on both sides of the fence, where in my mind it's currently on both sides of the fence. So on one hand, school systems are very rigorous. They were designed to make everybody the same. They're designed to suppress, repress. And on the other hand, though, it's also this amazing opportunity to step in to a place and make a difference in young people's lives. Because if you ask yourself, okay, well, who's in need most of being, what we term as like woken up or awakened? And that's kids. That's kids. That's the future generations. It's everybody, but especially our future generations who's building our future in our society. And those are the kids that really need it more than anyone else. So of course you could sit there and say, oh, well, what about the kids whose parents homeschool them because they're against the schooling system, and they take them and do all these amazing adventures and teach them everything basically there is to know that within their power. But those aren't really the kids I want to focus on, right? Those are the kids that already have a guide in their life. They already have someone there who's opened their eyes, who's trying to teach them like the ways. So the kids that I have a heart for are the ones that are stuck in the rut. They're the ones that have been kind of like sucked into society and, conformity and everything. And this whole picture that the school system and the traditional society paints for us, that we're supposed to fit into, all the different roles we're supposed to play, all the different expectations that we have. And so for me, that's the driving force, is how, it's like, yes, on one hand, you're in this school that is basically like a prison ground to your mind, even though it's literally supposed to be for the exact opposite, which is to, educate you.
Education comes from the Latin word educata, which means to bring out. It's supposed to bring out our passions, bring out our creativity, our individual power, creativeness.
And I'm super lucky because I teach at a charter school, and it still has a lot of the same facets as a regular public school, but it's not. It's like an actual art school. So. And it's 6th through 12th. That's a 6th through 12th grade school. So we actually have kids will go to math class, and then kids will go to ballet, and then they'll go to science class, and then they'll go to cartooning. And so it really breaks up the day, and we emphasize creativity and growth mindset within the curriculum. So it is really nice, because I would say out of all the public schools that are out there, this one's probably the best one to work in, because at least it's a little bit closer to, the important things in life than the traditional public schools. So there's
a question. So going back to what you were saying about how you want to affect kids that are more brokenhearted, or are going through more pain, sorrow within the system, or they're trying to be someone they're not, trying to fit in, etc. That type of thing. You want to get to those kids rather than the other kids. With that, and kids who feel like they're stuck. So question, what are the kids doing that have the most freedom in your school that you see? The kids who have the most freedom individually, like not talking like physically freedom, but individually speaking, like they feel they're like free. They're freeing more so than other people. Those kids that you see, what are they doing different to be in that state of freeness, of being more light and loose in this regimen schooling? What are they doing compared to the other kids who feel stuck and feel like they have to?
So the kids that actually
I want to get to also with that too. Like if someone does feel stuck right now in college or in school or whatever, or even if they're not going to school anymore, and they're out of college, out of high school, or whatever, trying to figure things out, and they feel stuck.
So what do they have in common? So
what are some of the things they can do to get unstuck?
So of course you have these, like I see a whole bunch of different kids, and you've got your kids that literally you look like they're dead inside. You can tell that all they do is like study and work, and they're trapped. They're definitely like under the water at this point. And then there's
one thing too. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go for it.
Sorry. I just want to bring this up so if people aren't aware, the schooling system was invented in the 1920s to literally create conveyor belt workers to work in the industry. That's what schooling was built for. And we are still using that same system.
Hence the A, B, C, D, and
grading.
F. Like there's no E. It just goes on to F.
It's archaic.
For failing.
And you can even see old footage and film of schools way back when of kids doing the exact same thing, how we learn out of a textbook and we just learn out of information for the most part. Schools are changing, like the art school is a little bit different now, but for the most part, it's very textbook. You have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. Classes are separated in 45 minutes, so when you separate different categories, it's really hard for the brain to learn everything and take in everything, because everything is separate. So they're like, oh, I have to know math, I know science, and nothing is connected when everything actually is connected in reality. Science, math is connected, language arts, history, it's all connected into one, but we learn separate boxes. And so and we're still using the same system. So that's, with that said, with that knowledge, as we were going on, so with the kids, because they feel they're dead inside. It makes sense in this system.
Yeah, the kids that I would say that are like the most dead are the kids that are conforming most to the system and they don't have any outlets. The kids that I see that are most alive and that are thriving are the kids that are actually involved in dance or art or music. I think the key is passion. So they have a passion about something. They're super passionate about, and whatever it is that they're passionate about. I actually run a manga and an anime club. And so I've got, and so we meet every Friday after school. The kids get super pumped about it. But many of these kids that were in that club, they didn't have, they're not a great dancer, or they're not a great theater person, or they're not a great musician or a singer, or, a cartoonist, or an artist. But so they go to this art school and, it's great, but they don't really have their home, their safe place, their haven, where they can share their passions with like-minded people. And so it was really nice when I opened up this club, because you see these kids, at least I saw these kids who, looked like they were dead inside. During the school day, they would come into the classroom or the media center, and they would just be kind of doing their thing, head hung down. You could just tell by their body language. They were just ugh. And then when they walk into manga club, it's everything just lifts up and they're free. Like what you said, that freedom piece is really there. So my biggest suggestion for any student going through any type of schooling is find a passion, find something. You don't even have to be great about it, or you don't have to be great at it. You just have to be, you have to like it. You've got to enjoy it, and do it. You got to do it, and it has to be something creative. That's what I would say. It doesn't have to be art. It just has to engage your brain. It's got to, you got to have some connections. You got to have some stuff going on there.
Also, it sounds like too, for the school, if there's not a club that you find your passion in, maybe trying to get people together to create that club and to get the school to create that club. So definitely.
And that's how that club was created. I had students approach me, and I actually, aside from Dragon Ball, which my husband introduced me to, I was not fortunate enough to grow up loving anime because I didn't know what it was. And so I had kids approach me and say, "Hey, Miss Dunphy, we really, really want an anime club. Are you willing? Are you interested?" And I didn't know anything about it, but I was like, "Well, sure." And I teach English. I'm a media specialist. We've got manga in the library, so I was like, it fits in. It fits the curriculum. So we did it, and it grew immensely, and people met their best friends in that club. And so I would definitely, say knock on doors, knock down doors, because the worst thing that can happen is no one answers, or someone says no. The best thing that can happen is it opens something up, and you'll be surprised where it goes.
Yeah, awesome. And that might, and too, if you don't go or don't do it, that can lead to regret, years later. That's a big thing for me that I think about is if I just would have done it, or would have said it, done this, just would have went, something might have happened. Doors might have opened up.
And in terms of, for teachers, I could sit here and do a whole 5-hour talk about what teachers need to be doing in the school systems. And a lot of them are doing it, but there's a lot that aren't. I would say a huge thing is, like you said, stop trying to teach your subject exclusively. We don't live in an exclusive, categorized, separated system in society. We live based on inclusivity, and we live based in a reality that's multifaceted. So try when you do, even if you have a subject that you think doesn't relate to anything else, definitely do cross-curriculum stuff. So try to implement as many different types of subject matters as you possibly can into your curriculum and tie it down to like a core, I don't know how to explain it, like tie it down to a core idea, or, you know, it's like learning within content. And so what I mean by that is, if like Finland does this, so if they're trying to teach something, they might teach like auto mechanics, and then from auto mechanics they will teach math and the science of the automobile and the history, and like they'll go through and they'll base it off of one concept. And so I would encourage every teacher to do that in their classroom to and if you're a student, suggest it to your teacher, like, hey, I learn better if I can learn based off of something that is realistic to me and something that is going to matter to me that in real life. Even if it doesn't matter, even if it's like, okay, an actual trip to like Mars, if we're talking about that, it's engaging, it's interesting. It's something that is going to matter. It's not just sitting there doing rote memorization is what they call it, where you're just memorizing and you're just putting it in your brain to like just spit it back out. And it's not going to stay there forever. So, I would definitely say teach too specific.
Not too specific.
Not too specific. Just like teach to specific. I forget what it's called, but oh my gosh, you can like edit this part out, right?
No, yeah, I can. I'm not gonna edit it out.
Oh, okay. I forget what it's called. It's 11 o'clock at night. But basically, take like a subject.
It's pretty good for off the cuff.
Yeah, take like a specific subject and like teach around that instead of teaching your subject, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So to wrap up that little summary too. So one, if you feel stuck, do find your passion by going and moving and doing. And the babies thing. So find your passion by going, doing.
Baby monitor.
Yeah, baby monitor. Going, doing, and possibly starting a club at your school, getting people together. I think the more people you have, the more convincing it is to tell your principals, teachers, whatnot about a club. But even if you're just by yourself, you have the power as the individual, and you can convince your teachers, principals to start clubs. I think that's a big thing. Working on your passions, and then...
And if you have to, and here's one other really good point for students, if you have to go through schooling, right? Like you have to be like legally in school, I think till you're 16 in most states. But if you have to go through schooling, or if you're determined like, yes, I'm going to graduate high school, or yes, I'm going to graduate college. And there's a class that is not engaging to you, because in order for learning to take place, you have to be engaged. So like if something is not engaging to you, my biggest thing to tell you is like set a goal in your life if you don't already have one, and figure out a way to tie that class into your goal. Like, okay, right now I think this class doesn't matter to me, but how can I make it matter? Because as soon as it starts to matter to you, you will be able to learn better, and you'll be able to retain the information better, and you might find some kind of purpose in it. You might not, but like if you have to take it anyways, at least make your time more valuable while you're there and while you're doing it.
Yeah, so for the teachers, that's a big thing too that they can start to implement, is making activities more engaging by making it really interesting.
Yeah.
Like you think, like the thing that you mentioned about going to Mars, like even though you might not actually physically go to Mars, it's really cool to think about like colonizing on Mars, going to Mars, how that would, how you do that, and that's a perceivable future in the near future. Actually, Elon Musk is working on it, and I think by 2020, which is a year, really soon, they're actually sending people. They're going to start to send the first people up there to start working on something like that. Yeah, wow. A lot of people. I think like 1,000 people signed up voluntarily to go to Mars, and they won't be able to come back for like a long time, if not their lifetime. I think it's something crazy like that. And I know that soon. It's like within the year 2020, it's year 2025. It's like super soon. But so that's cool stuff. That's like talking about Elon Musk technology. You can really get engaged with that, and like life in space, stuff like that. So yeah, I think that goes in all aspects of life, is making things engaging. Try to make it, as fun as possible. When you're laughing, when you're having fun, time flies by, and life becomes a lot easier and simpler. Whatever task you're doing becomes easier because you make it fun and happy, and you're laughing. And
well, and not just that. Engagement is kind of like this really beautiful sweet spot that happens when you...
It's like Zen.
It is like a Zen, but to get there, you have to marry challenge with like fun, basically.
Yeah.
So whenever you have like anything in life, and everything's like a roller coaster, it's constantly kind of going up and down between something being super challenging, and then if it's too challenging, it's like overly stressful. And if it's overly stressful, your brain's going to shut down. You're not going to be able to remember. You're not going to be engaged. You're not going to be excited about it. But if it's too easy, or it's too, I don't want to say too fun, but like too easy, then it's not engaging anymore. It's not challenging. There's no skin in the game. There's nothing that keeps you wanting to come back for it. So I would definitely say, when you guys are thinking about how to engage yourselves, or when you're setting goals, or when you're living life, make sure you're really trying to marry those two spots, and you're trying to settle into that sweet spot where you are challenging yourself. But, if it starts to become overly stressful, scale back a little bit. You're not failing, you're just scaling back. So I would say a lot of students set their goals and expectations too high, and that challenge point's like way up there, and then they stress themselves out, and it doesn't become fun anymore. And then they become like, they develop like a negative connotation towards whatever they're doing. So just try to like get that sweet spot when you're looking at engagement as well.
Cool. Yeah, that's similar to Zen. How Zen is it's all about calmness, being in a state of calmness, but not too calm and not too loose so that you like fall over, but also having a balance of strength and fortitude, and stuff like that. It's that perfect balance of strength but relaxation and strength, and that's what Zen is all about, holding different positions, almost like yoga, but not as intense. And not to get too off topic, but there's actually a story about this king who lived in the era of Buddha, and his whole life he was searching for enlightenment. And he brought all these wisdom teachers, all these gurus, all these scientists back then, and he made them come to his land and teach him as much knowledge as he could gain. And but he knew that every time he was taught something, he knew this is not it. This is not enlightenment. Until finally some guru who was actually enlightened came to him, and he was like, what you're searching for, no one will have, blah blah blah. This long story short. He finds the guru in a forest. He comes to the forest where the guru said he'll be, and he's on his horse. And he said, the king said, I'll do whatever for enlightenment. I just want it. And the guru said, get off your horse. He's like, first of all, get off your horse. And the king went to go get off his horse, and he brought one leg over. He was in a really awkward position. And the guru said, stay right there. And the king just stayed in that really awkward position with one leg on the horse and off the horse. And he stayed there for 5 to 10 minutes, and then supposedly he reached enlightenment in that state, because that's the state of Zen. That's the state that he was looking for to be in. And so yeah, went off a little topic, but
no, it's good. That's good.
So yeah, reach the state of Zen, engagement, balance. Alrighty. Anything else that you...
Is there anything else that you wanted me to talk about specific to the schooling, or? You brought up in the beginning opportunities for teachers for people in the school system to kind of break in and to kind of crack the mold.
Yeah. Opportunities.
Yeah. So it is. It's really hard as a teacher. To be in a school system sometimes, because of, you're sitting there and you're listening to some of the stuff that they teach, and you know that it's wrong, especially in health class.
It sounds like clubs are a big thing too for this, to break out of that mold a little bit.
But, clubs definitely are a big thing to break out of that mold.
In school, actually.
But as a teacher, like in school, there's definitely room for people who are awoke or awakened. There's definitely room for you to go in the school systems and talk about that, because it doesn't even matter what subject area you teach, but if you teach history, you can literally, like, you have to teach by the book, but then you can also talk to your students about how, the history books have been, like all written history has been manipulated for the use of greed and power and control, of like big honchos, basically. That's how you can like word it to middle schoolers. That's how I would do it. And so you can kind of talk to them about other things and other theories. You can't really like, as a public school teacher, it's hard to state it as like a contradicting fact, contradicting to the textbooks, but you can definitely bring it up as theories. Same thing with English. English is an amazing subject to bring up. Like, you can read like Woman on the Edge of Time. I remember reading that book. If you haven't read that book, definitely read that book. Woman on the Edge of Time by Marge Piercy was written like in the 70s. She's genius. I mean, it's literally, she could have been writing it for our current time period. It's amazing. And I had a professor in college that taught us Woman on the Edge of Time, and it was for a U.S. history class. And the way that he opened up discussion just based on this one book was so incredible and incredibly enlightening and amazing. And we covered subjects all the way from pollution to women's rights to suppression, from welfare to spirituality to all in this one book. And then also psych wards and what they consider to be insane, what they consider to be an illness, a mental illness, what is considered to be traditional treatment, what's not traditional treatment. I mean, so there's like so much packed into this one book, and there was so much rich discussion that we had in the class. So there is definitely like beyond, that's why I chose English. That's why I actually chose to teach English, just because there's so much area there for impactful discussion. You can bring up, depending on the book you choose to teach, you can bring up health, you can bring up literally anything, as long as you kind of like nudge the kids towards the discussion, kind of step in and just like ask questions. If you ask the right questions, you can still get them to provide certain answers without you actually telling them like, this is what's going on, or this is what I want you to think. It's all in the way that you ask and formulate the question. It's kind of like you're manipulating them to go down that rabbit hole, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's what gurus do, is they actually tell you something that's not true to fool yourself into thinking something else. And then you end up fooling yourself.
Like reverse psychology.
Yeah. And so they'll tell you, depending on how far you are on enlightenment, if you can determine. So they will tell you they'll ask you certain questions or tell you certain statements of questions that you ask, and they're very particular on how they answer a question of yours, and how, depending on how, your state of being. And they do so that you can fool yourself into thinking something else, and then you actually come with that foolishness, you come to the realization of the actual true answer, and what the true answer that you're looking for. Or that you need at that time. So that's really cool. With the English thing, I want to mention that too. When I started to become aware in 2016 when I just started to gain more awareness of my creativity as an individual and my individual power and what's really out there in the world and stuff. When I started becoming aware of this, I started to work on myself. And I started to write more, and I got really inspired by English stuff towards the end of high school and in college, in my first year of college. I got really inspired by English, like poems and just English classes and all kinds of stuff. I was really inspired by a lot of things because I started to gain awareness of my creative power. And I started to experiment with myself. So like writing short poems, or writing like the start of a book, or writing like whatever, short stories, stuff like that. And tonight I actually just read the start of a book that I'm working on, and I don't know if I'll finish it or what I'm going to do with it. But I started like a year and a half ago, and I reread it tonight, and it was like 2 or 3 pages. It's like the introduction. And I really, really surprised myself at how eloquently it was written, and what words I used, and how beautifully it was written, and how I stated stuff. I was completely shocked at myself, and that I wrote this a year and a half ago. I was like, whoa, that's literally incredible. I didn't even know I was that good at writing. And like I feel like some huge author, famous person would have wrote this, and I would have like been super inspired by it. That's how inspired I was by my own work. I didn't even know I could do that. So with all that said, I feel like once you start to become aware of your creative passions and your creativity, and just starting to do stuff and experiment with yourself and working on yourself, you'll really surprise yourself at your creativity and what you can do, and that will spur on a lot of opportunities for you and what you want to do in life and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I found a hidden passion in English and in writing, and I'm pursuing that more, and which is really cool. And yeah, and there's a lot of little things like that in my life that I've found to be true. Yeah.
And actually going off of that, that's actually a huge lie that the school system and society tells us, that is like, if I could shout it from the mountaintops, like, it's a lie, I would, because it is. So
it's like that part of the Sausage Party where the mustard's like, it's a lie, and he's on the cart, and he's like, it's a lie, he's like, open up your eyes.
That's literally how this is, what I'm about to say to you. So like,
then he falls and he breaks it, and he's like, I can't take you more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Thank you for comparing this word of wisdom to the Sausage Party.
Hey, Sausage Party is good written. It's like modern day Matrix. Anyways.
Oh, okay. But society and our school systems has lied to everybody in that they really have convinced people that if you fail at something one time, or if you get a bad grade in something one time, or over a course of a year or even 5 years, that you're bad at that subject, that you're bad at that. And some people are just good at stuff, and some people are just straight A students. And I was never a quote unquote straight A student when I was in high school. I was an ABD student, and when I saw straight A students, I would just be like, oh yeah, that's not me. Like, that will never be me. That's never been me. I'm just not that smart. I'm not that good. Whatever. Like, I was writing this whole narrative about myself, saying that I could never do that. And it's because, I realized it's not my fault, because when I was in college, I started getting straight A's because I really started believing in myself, and I told myself, like, I can do it. And I forced myself to do it. And so I graduated with a 3.8 GPA and then a 4.0 in both my master's degrees. And that's only because I changed the narrative about myself, and I learned how people learn. So when you are I just want to point out that pretty much anybody can master anything with enough hard work and enough hours. You are not going to do it overnight. Yeah, you might be a little bit more inclined towards math or English or history or whatever it is that specifically that maybe you have more of a natural knack to, but that doesn't mean that somebody else who doesn't have a natural affinity towards that can't get just as good. They might just have to put some more work into it. So if you thought that you might be bad at something, or you thought that, you kind of tossed something aside, it might have been something you enjoyed, but maybe you didn't excel at it at first. Don't write it off, because I'm telling you right now, that is such a lie. Like, I've studied the brain systems. I've studied the way people learn. Like, you can learn anything, and you can exceed at anything. Excel. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, exceed expectations and also excel at anything. So just know that.
It's like the Einstein quote: if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to go its whole life thinking it's stupid. And that's what the schooling system does. And if anyone who judges your smartness and your intelligentness, your
intelligence.
This is contradictory because it's making me look dumb. Anyone who judges your intelligible, whatever. Anyone who judges that by your grades, by your grades in school is the dumb one. Because schooling and grades and GPA does not determine smartness.
Doesn't define
so many great people have shown that and proven that there's just so many people I could lift off, like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Sadhguru and Gary Vee. You've probably heard of Gary Vee. He's really huge right now, really big in social media and business right now. I was the same way. as my sister with the schooling, as how she brought up how she was like an ABC student, and she was like, how can I get straight A's? And some people just have a knack for it. And I was actually considered dumb in a lot of. I was considered smart for some things and dumb for other things, and like I even remember some kids making fun of me. A close friend of mine, his friend told him. I told him, he was like one of my best friends, and told him, why does he hang out with me, Jaden? Why do you hang out with Jaden? He's really dumb. He acts dumb. And he told me that, my best friend told me that his friend told him that. And he kind of laughed like it was a joke. But that really like got to me personally, because I was like, someone thinks I'm that dumb because I don't get a good grade in school, and I bring up weird topics or whatever, and someone thinks I'm dumb because of that. It's hard. It hits hard, but it's not true. Right. It's not true. I'm doing great things, and I'm accomplishing great things, and I know that I'm smart, and you are smart. We're all very intelligent, and we have incredible brain power and brains that can do amazing things. And it's if
you can almost compare it to like video games. Like if you ever played like an RPG, or if you ever played like Skyrim or something, you can pick your character, and you start off automatically like higher on certain levels. Like you're higher, maybe if you pick the Khajiit, you're higher in thieving. Like when you're just like automatically, you don't have to work towards it. You're just higher in that. But you can also pick like any other life form and get up to that level. You just have to work a little bit harder. And so unfortunately, especially as teens and like young adults and kids, they believe the narrative that's told about them, and they convince themselves that they're stupid in a subject or about something or overall because they can't succeed in school.
Yeah. Also, what I want to mention too, with everything I mentioned about the dumbness too, just to prove to that kid that I wasn't dumb. In college, I like worked my ass off, and I'll have to bleep that out. But I worked my ass off, and I got a 4.0 GPA, and I was majoring in astrophysics, and I took a course that was supposed to be sophomore level, and I was the only person to get a 97% on the test when the average score was like a 65%, and I got a 4.0 out of college, but then I realized college wasn't for me. And I just wanted to go to college for a year just to prove that to these people that schooling is not about your smarts. I can do it too when I put my mind to it.
Right, but I think in watching you go through that, though, a lot of it, though, was proving it to yourself, right?
Yeah, it's proving it to myself that I can do it. Exactly. It was proving it to myself that I can do it, and to show those kids up. But yeah, it was proving it to myself that, I can do this mind-dumbing. To me, schooling is very mind-dumbing, and I feel like
it's true. I was in it for 9 years. Yeah. It depends on the subject you go into, but yeah.
Especially, and probably like Manatee School for the Arts is a little bit better because it's artsy and stuff like that. And I feel like my experience would have been a little bit different in high school if that were the case, that I was attending a school like that. It's more artsy, stuff like that. But for my case, I felt like during high school I was just literally bashing my head with a hammer every time in class, because I was like, this is the most idiotic stuff. I would even bring it up to my teachers sometimes, that like, hey, have you like. You just talk for 45 minutes and write on the chalkboard and don't do anything else. Like, I don't retain any information from that. And they're like, oh no, this is just how I teach. You're just gonna have to learn. And so it's very you'll have teachers like that, but it is, you can do your best and do what you got to do. But just keep trying and keep going and keep moving. I think that's a big thing, is just keep moving and trying different things and getting people to change and stuff like that. The greasy wheel gets the oil, something like that.
Squeaky wheel gets
the
greasy oil gets the wheel. Squeaky wheel.
It's already got the oil. It sounds like.
Yeah. What time is it now? It
sounds like we're all tired.
Yeah. I'm a bit tired, but yeah.
That's pretty good though, for like completely off the cuff. Like literally, we just decided to do this thing.
Yeah, definitely. To finish what I was saying, my message or whatever. What was I talking about? Squeaky wheel.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
But before that,
so basically, make your voice heard.
And in the schooling. Yeah, what I want to say is schooling is pretty dumb, and it was it's dumb. It was really dumb for me, and I realized that. But I wanted to prove anyways to the kids who got straight A's, and they thought they were all cool and they're all popular getting straight A's just because they were, they had a knack for it because they, they're the zombies, and because they're the zombies, they're considered popular. And
it sounds like you got some major juju hate going on here.
Yeah, for a while, my whole mission was to prove to I wanted to go back to my whole high school and be like, screw you guys, look what I've accomplished. And that was the only reason I wanted to do anything in life, was just to throw them up to be like...
I thought I remembered at the end of your high school years, you getting super good grades and being all in advanced classes.
Yeah, I did get to a point, I think. And there was points at times where I was in advanced classes and not in advanced classes. But, I'm
trying to remember.
Yeah, and there was just classes...
But either way, you have evolved past that now. You have
you've
got greater goals.
Yeah, I have evolved past that, and I'm not doing this to show up my high school or whatever.
Get over it, Jaden.
I still am, no.
I'm joking.
But, no, I definitely moved past it, and I really am just doing this, this kind of stuff for humanity, and I know that I really want to make a difference in the world and change, and that's why I'm doing it. It's for myself and for humanity and for this earth, because I see the problems. And it's not even, I've realized it's not about me, it's not about you, he, she, they. It's about, it's just about it's about the suffering. There's so much suffering in this world, and there's collectively there's so much suffering, and we have solutions to the suffering, but we're not implementing them. So that's my whole mission is, we just need to become aware of this stuff and make a change, because we need a change, because we're heading towards a really weird, not so good era if we had with technology and stuff like that. We've advanced so much with technology. We've got so much information in our hands at all times, but we haven't advanced consciously. We don't know how to even operate ourselves, but yet we use these products and this technology, and it's causing issues with social media, depression, and all kinds of stuff. So technology can be amazing when we use it properly. It's not the technology that's bad, it's ourselves, how we use the technology. We have to, that's another message, is just to show people that once you can get to a state consciously in yourself to feel good and to know how to be aware and know how to use stuff, and know how to question and whatnot. So
but for now, I think that, that about wraps that up. Do you have any last questions?
I don't know. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for being on my show.
Glad to be your first
guest.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be the next guest.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Sitting here, listening.
Just sitting here.
Yeah. This guy's got a lot to tell, too.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, so
I think we all need to get some rest though first.
Yeah,
recharge.
It's bedtime.
So I can tell we're all starting to.
All right, to wrap things up. Summary. It's just, you can do it. All you have to do is set your mind to it, and you just have to move. Whatever aspect of it is, schooling, not schooling. Just move and go and experiment. I promise you, things will work out if you put in the work and you just go. I promise you, things will work out. The most alive kids at our school are the kids that are doing stuff, that are engaged. That are passionate. So if you feel stuck, force yourself to move, do something, have someone else force you to do something.
Yeah, and listen to your gut. And just as one quick last note, listen to your gut.
The gut's very intelligent, actually.
Yeah, the gut's...
There's a lot of scientific evidence in our gut that it's actually a brain of its own.
That's very true. So, if you... obviously, if you're in math... Yeah, if you have to do a math class in in order to graduate, right? You can't drop out of that math class. Well, technically you can, but then you're gonna have a problem achieving that goal of graduation. So if
only
it's
drop out of high school if you have a very, very good vision and you know where you're going and you have a plan. Like Steve Jobs, for example, he knew he was gonna create Apple. He knew he had a plan, and he was very confident in himself.
Yeah.
If you're that,
but the point is though, and this is not just in high school, this is college, especially college, because in college you actually get to choose your career path. For me, I had 10 career paths that I chose, but I'm actually going back to school in January to finish my degree in school counseling for a third master's degree. So that's how all over the place it can be. You might think that you're going to do something for the rest of your life and you might go down 10 different paths. But the point is listen to your gut. So if you're like choosing a career path, or if you're choosing, like something to do in your near future in the next 5 years, and you kind of have like a tummy ache over it, or if it doesn't sit right, or if it doesn't feel right, really look inward and think about like how this is making you feel, and picture yourself in 5 years in that position, doing whatever it is that you're setting yourself up to do. And if it doesn't feel 100% right, if it doesn't feel like, you can be scared. It's okay to be scared. But if it doesn't feel right, if it feels wrong, if you feel sick about it, don't do it. Just switch something out. It will work out. Go with your passions. I would definitely say don't just do everything for the money. We all need money to live. We all need to be comfortable, but go with something that you're passionate about, because you will live a much stronger, healthier, more amazing life. We all have a path that is like the healthiest path for us. There's many paths we can go down, but there's always like the golden path. And I really feel like
your greatest
follow
potential.
Your gut.
You can go down whichever path you want, but you'll have a greater path than others, because that's who you are. That's your creativity. That's your natural talent. Whatever it is you're passionate about. That's your going for. That is unlocking your greatest potential as a human being and what you can do. And if you don't follow that, then it might lead to regret or whatever.
And just keep in mind, without risk there is no great reward. And I have to remind myself that on a daily basis, as my husband starts an art business, which is not super risky, but it's way more out of my comfort zone than I ever thought I was going to be in. I have to remind myself every day, like, no artist that ever became famous or that ever made good money off of it ever just like started like, oh, here's a pop-up tent, here I'm making all this money. No, it was a lot of hard work, and they started from ground zero, and they like failed a lot, and they had to redo things and totally regroup on everything. But they kept pushing. So because they knew it's like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And so also just don't be afraid to take risks either. Just make sure you follow that gut instinct.
And you're not alone. That's a big thing too, personally, that I felt going down this path of pushing and perceiving. You oftentimes feel alone. You can feel isolated if you go for your passion, or if you go against society, or if you're doing this constant work and you don't have time for your friends or whatever other things. You can feel alone, you can feel isolated, but know that you're not alone, because we live in a universe that's very connected, and we're all connected, and you have spirit guides watching you, you have friends that you can hang out with or contact to help you. You have other people, and your vibe attracts your tribe. So as you do the work, as you do it, other people will come into your life that is your type of vibe, your tribe, and you'll find out, you'll be like, whoa, there is actually people that are into this or doing this already, or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And
we can get off on like a whole nother topic, but we definitely have to go to bed now. But
So know that you're not alone. You're not alone in this universe. You always have love. There's love within you, and there's so much great potential within you. And if you just work on it and continue doing it, I promise you, great things will come your way.
And if you want to go into the school systems, don't be afraid to go in and make an impact, just because you're awakened to everything. Where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah.
Be the bug, the virus in the computer within the system.
It's very true.
That's what Edward Snowden did in the CIA and the government, releasing all his government files. I don't know if you guys know much about it.
I know a little bit, yeah.
No, we'll definitely have to watch that movie. That's what he did. But
All right.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Hope you guys enjoyed. And much love, peace, and abundance to you, baby. Feeling the energy. And that's a wrap, I guess.
That's a wrap.
You can do it. Yeah. Trust in yourself. Believe in yourself. Just do it.